All right, brothers and sisters, man, I am so glad to be with you here today. We have a great podcast for you planned. We try to have some great dialogues. I love great dialogues, so I'm hoping that that's why you're here too, to enjoy some great dialogues. We try to, one of the things I try to do is uh, to reach out to different people. This is how I have been able to obtain some type of wisdom in my own life. I know there are lots of different ways that all of us go about obtaining wisdom, but one of the things that I try to do is to go out and just engage people in dialogue. And God has blessed me to be in relationship with some truly amazing people. And these amazing people have been some great sources of wisdom to me, have helped me along the way, teaching me about different things, helping me sharpen myself, helping me learn how to be better. And I'm so glad for these conversations. And what I want to do in these times is to allow you to be able to participate in these conversations so that you can be able to share in the wisdom. I'm telling you. So what I try to do is I try to have these dialogues with different people so that I can gain wisdom from them. And so a lot of it is just being patient enough to ask questions, admitting that you do not know, and admitting that you don't know. You open yourself up to a wealth of information that will make you more knowledgeable and all of the things that you desire. And so today, look, today is an important topic. It's one that you've heard a lot about, and is one that we will need to seek more wisdom on as we see the amount of violence and anger, frustration, the amount of road rage that's out there, and we can see it. And the topic today is mental health. So mental health is wealth. We spent all of this time pursuing money, trying to invest in our portfolios, trying to do all of these great things. But at the same token, while we're increasing our wealth, we need to be aware that we need to increase our mental health. So I won't delay any longer. Today we have with us Dr. Kimberly Willis. She is an amazing woman of God, not just an educated woman and a professional, but she's also a woman of God. And so I love these dialogues with my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, co-laborers, because they bring such a wide spectrum and in such a varied position that can help us to be able to understand things a little better. So why don't you welcome with me Dr. Kimberly Willis. What's going on?
Hello. How are you?
Oh, I am so excited to be able to spend this time with you. From the day that we came into contact with each other and started to fellowship with each other, I have been so blessed by our personal encounters, and then also by seeing the way God has grown you from that moment. I
Yes.
mean, God is doing some really, really great and unique things through you. So, give us a brief overview of what God has been birthing in you these last few years.
Yes. So, um, first of all, I would love to say that I'm a doctor, but I'm not a doctor yet. But
It's
I
coming.
am, but I am a licensed clinical social worker here in Houston, Texas. I'm also a minister at the Mouth of God Ministries, and one of the things that I've always been passionate about is service. Whether it been in the political arena, whether it been advocating for women, whether it be advocating for youth in the criminal justice system, whether it be advocating for education or mental health. And so that journey has kind of definitely led me into doing more therapeutic work because in the ministry of helps and working with various people, you know, around the state and also in Texas. And I'm also licensed in Idaho and Oregon, and soon to be in a couple other states. Um, I've noticed that there is a great need for people to
Amen.
develop not only spiritually and work on their physical health, but also on their mental health. And so, in these last few years, I have really been working diligently in counseling, entrepreneurs, counseling individuals who come from traumatic backgrounds, looking to finally confront the things that have been confronting them for years.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. Like you said, since the moment we first connected many moons ago,
Yes.
like we've always kind of had great dialogue, and
Yeah.
was able to kind of connect on issues that really target the hearts of people around the world.
Well, you've been a source of wisdom for me, so I greatly appreciate you in my life. But I'm mad at you right now because my first question to you was, did social work lead to mental health? And I just when I was looking at the pattern that you've been on, that was one of the things I was thinking is, man, spending time as a social worker, working with so many variety of people and personalities and backgrounds, did that make you feel like, man, there's a component that's missing here, and that's really to dive a little bit further into mental health and to start helping people to improve their lives?
Most
And to deal with their past. It's not just, but it's also dealing with their past.
Yes, most definitely. First of all, when you say social workers, it's social worker, that's such a broad field,
Yeah.
right? You have social workers who work in hospitals, who work in child protective services, who work in, the criminal justice system, who work in education, who are therapists. So social workers, and then you have all those who are in leadership in nonprofits and other service areas. So it's such a broad term, and we come into contact with so many people. And one thing that I've realized is that everyone has a little bit of brokenness in them somewhere,
Yeah.
and they're trying to find a way to mend that and heal that. Whether it's manifested in drugs and alcohol, whether it's manifested in criminal activities, whether it's manifested in violence within the home, whether it's manifested in workaholics, in health. There's so many ways in which the social ills of our world are manifested in our daily lives that cause us to not be able to progress forward. So when you say as being a social worker, have I come into contact with a lot of people who are in need of mental health services? Most definitely. As a social worker, I'm actually a clinical social worker, so I'm a therapist. And even myself coming into contact with so many people with so many different dynamics and have gone through so many different things in life, I've realized I myself, okay, let me go get a therapist,
Yeah.
because it's a lot, and there's a heavy weight in this world, and it's disguised in political distrust, it's disguised in violence on the street, like you said. We see these rise in mass shootings and all of that, and it's disguised in hate for one another. But what it really is a level of brokenness that many people have not yet been able to heal from. And what I love to do now, because that missing factor, that missing key that I'm seeing, is that it has to come back to the heart of God. It has to come back to connecting people back to God, connecting people back to their true identity, so that they can now be birthed out from a place that has a solid foundation, a solid rock to stand on, versus something that's sinking sand, which is what you see many people doing nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I am, let me go ahead, and we should be patting ourselves on the back because the church has, one of the things we talk about is that the things that the church needs to do to grow, to come along. But let's be honest, the church has come a long way in this issue.
Yes.
The fact that we're even talking about mental health and the value of therapy and counseling, because back in the day, Jesus was enough. Oh, come on now.
Uh-huh.
And if you didn't trust him, if you didn't have enough faith, then you were struggling. But now we understand that there are some brokenness that are in people that need to be touched, and having someone to give wise counsel definitely matters. So we definitely know that counseling matters. So one of the things that you talked about is the violence that's out there and the stress. But I want you to talk a little bit about that, because this was a few years ago. There was a well-known African-American woman who had a hair care product line that was literally at the top of the game. and she took her life, and it literally threw the world out of balance. People just could not understand how someone who had taken their baby and grown it and had been a great success could actually take their life. And one of the things that we talked about is the amount of pressure, sometimes specifically that our Black women walk with, being professionals, being mothers, being God's gift to everybody. Let's be honest, the backbones of our families, and the amount of stress and tension that is in our homes, specifically with our Black professional women. So could you talk to that about self-care, and how important that is to our women as they climb this corporate ladder, attain new degrees, and open up businesses? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yes. One of the greatest misconceptions is that success heals the emotions. Success in itself can bring riches. It can bring fame. It can bring faux friends. It can bring, these worldly things, a better life for you. But what it doesn't do is heal the brokenness inside. What it doesn't do is allow you to process through the trauma that you've experienced as a child, or the mental unrest that you experience on a day-to-day basis. It does not do that. Yeah. And in some cases, it even masks that. We're used to seeing people walk around with, who've obtained great wealth. I mean, not only do you have the lady, that young lady, and I believe Miss Jessie's was her hair product.
Yeah, I think there was as a matter of fact, there were like 2 or 3 Black women who were at the top of their craft that took their lives all within like a year.
Yes, it was her, and then I believe it was another young woman who was a screenwriter or producer of a major show at the top of her game. Yeah. And you see it, you see their craft being expressed widely. You see them being celebrated for this gift. Yet what we don't see is those dark hours, the dark night of the soul, and after we've, stood in the light, we all have to go back to that dark night of the soul. And, one of the things that I try to encourage, African-American women, Hispanic women, even women and people in general across the board, because we don't want to, just specifically say Black women, but women, people across the board, because you also saw some pastors during that time that committed suicide, hardcore for the faith pastors. Yeah. You saw, Robin Williams, Kate Spade, all of these people who were at the top of their game, not be able to deal with the dark night of their souls. Yeah. And so one thing that I want to encourage you all is that the Bible talks about seeking wise counsel, understanding that, we're not just flesh and blood. We're not just these human bodies. We have a mind, a will, an intellect, and a spirit. And when that spirit is broken, when we have that unhealed spirit, we all need to be able to go back to the Father, to be able to mend that spirit, to be able to calm the aching heart, and only true healing, therapists across the board, we can give you principles and tools and tips and help you have a safe space to process. But what I found to be most effective, which is why I have not eliminated from my own practice, is that we have to incorporate faith. Yes. The Bible, I believe it's in Psalms 61:2, I think, where it says, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Yeah. There has to be something, a source that's higher than us, because if we try to mend from our own devices, we're always going to hit a glass ceiling, because we only know what we know. But it's until we tap into a source that's higher than I, higher than you, that you're able to allow for yourself to release the burdens that have oppressed you for so many years. And every person, no matter who you are, it does not discriminate, will have to deal with the dark night of your soul. Will have to deal with those places within you that are left unhealed.
Wow, that is such a challenge, because I guess human nature is to really flee from those things, and a lot of us And I think that's also why we may be seeing some of these explosive moments where there are some things that we have been avoiding, things that we've hidden, things that we have buried. And now COVID has fostered an environment that allows us to really think about these things and face the reality of who we are and what we've experienced. And now you see people seemingly lashing out in anger and frustration. What is it about us that feels more comfortable fleeing rather than facing
Yeah.
the pain and actually addressing what needs to be talked about?
Yeah. So when you look at trauma within itself, trauma, doesn't necessarily have to be, someone beat me to a post and now I'm scared. It
Yeah,
could be a car accident. It could be a pandemic.
yeah,
It could be a complete change in your lifestyle. It could be trauma is all these things, the loss of a loved one unexpectedly. And so when you look at trauma in itself, trauma causes us to, um, want, many of us flee from trauma because uh, trauma teaches us that avoidance
yeah.
of an event heals us for a moment.
Mm,
And so when we begin to have experiences that have impacted us in such deep, intimate ways, where we have these recurrent feelings of anxiety. We have these current feelings of fear and worry, excuse me, where we have these current feelings of, just fear, constant distress. When we don't want to, when we don't have the tools to deal with it, we tend to avoid. And
yeah.
avoidance, like I said, becomes a safety buddy. You know,
Wow.
it and for that moment, it eases the pain, and we feel good. And so we learn through behavior that, okay, if I don't want to feel this, I just run away from it. I
Yeah.
avoid it at all costs. But what we don't realize is that trauma that was, this event that occurred in life, all it does when it's suppressed is begin to magnify.
Yeah.
And this event in life becomes an inner monster haunting you daily.
Yeah.
Um, and it's lived and it causes, nightmares, it causes anxiety, it causes depression. There are so many people right now who are dealing with depression because they try to suppress.
Yeah.
I heard, the leading lady at my church, Jessica, she says this all the time. She talks about what we suppress becomes our depression. You know,
Wow.
and so when we talk about why do people avoid, they avoid because it feels safe. you know they avoid because, um if I avoid something and I don't have to deal with it, then I can live another day. So that safety of avoidance becomes something that's not just a tool for the moment, but it becomes a lifestyle, a habit, that
Yeah.
has to be broken. And then even in that, we start seeing, people forget memories. They
Yeah.
suppress so much, they avoid so much. We have to now train them to bring the memory back up because
Yeah,
they've
you got to
forgotten
bring the
about it.
memory. Yeah, you've been avoiding it so long that it's like it doesn't exist, but you know that there's some hurt there that needs to heal, and that's such a challenge. But one of the things that you said, I don't want to bring you back to this, is you said the three words for the moment. And much of what we do in masking our pain and dealing with our pain just lasts a moment. And we're talking about this thing about self care, but I also want to bring into the word a sabbatical, uh, because a lot of what we do is we grind, we grind, we obtain, we acquire. Yes.
We can't hear you on Clubhouse.
Oh, Lordy.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but we can't hear you at all on Clubhouse. We can hear you, but we can't hear the guest.
Okay, let me work on that. Oh, Lordy.
Okay.
All right, we're trying to make sure that Kimberly,
Yes.
they're trying to make sure that we can hear you also on Clubhouse. So I'm trying to make the necessary adjustments. Hopefully, I got the I'm plugged in. All right, go ahead and talk.
I'm thinking I need to be my clubhouse is actually. Let me see.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's all right. Go ahead and sign into yours, and then we can see if we can navigate it that way. Hopefully, we won't get any feedback. All right, so I wanted to continue in this because what we end up looking at is of dealing with things for the moment and our culture. And let's talk about the church. Uh, we did a masterful job long before COVID convincing people to wear a mask.
Oh my God.
Like, look, just put that mask on and pretend that you have it, pretend that you hold, say the magic words and convince everybody that you have obtained this healing. And it's like, you know what? Now we're seeing that putting on those masks, avoiding those conversations, avoiding those encounters, not being willing to have those dialogues now has come back in a lot of areas to be to the detriment of our people and also of some of the health that should exist in our churches. So how do we convince people uh, to pull off these masks and to really face who's in the mirror, really face um, the trauma, to really face the demons, and to help them to understand that what you're doing for the moment is not healing, it's hiding.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. So I think that there's this idea that healing is going to be easy, that healing is, um, something that is going to just release me from any pain and any struggle. However, what we see a lot of times is that, is there feedback on your?
I'm working on it.
So one of the things that we see is that healing from trauma, healing from past hurts brings up a lot of pain. And trying to convince people to remove the mask is trying to convince people that pain is good, and necessary, which is a difficult thing because we live our lives constantly trying to avoid that, trying to avoid pain. The way our brains function is that, we have anxiety and we have, fear, which is, we all need a healthy amount of that. Our brains work in alerting us that, oh my gosh, there's a threat to your existence.
Yeah,
Fear, become anxious, become worried, avoid, run away, don't go near,
yeah,
do not enter. And so when we ask people to remove their mask, we're literally asking them to put themselves in a place where they have identified with, remove themselves from a place that they've identified with for so many years. And that's
yeah.
not easy for anyone. And
But
so
this is the gospel though. Like if you don't recognize, and this is not that to say that the trauma is sin, but if you don't recognize first that you've sinned, then how can you receive the healing that is in Christ? If you don't recognize that there or acknowledge that you've experienced this trauma, then how can you find healing? Is it even possible to experience the true healing that Christ can give if you don't acknowledge that you're first in pain?
no, you're right. Acknowledgement is always the first step. And but acknowledgement takes a sense of awareness. And most people are unaware. Most people are unaware that they're shouting, dancing, running around is not necessarily is not necessarily a sign of their healing, but it's a response
Yeah,
to trauma. Most people are not aware of that,
yeah,
and most people don't want to be alerted to that. And we've taught people for so long that if you just pray, if you just shout, if you just dance, which are all great things, right? All amazing
yeah.
things to do in church. They're a form of
Amen.
your worship, but you have to do them from, guess what? A place of spirit and in truth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you have to get back to a place to where and we all collectively have to remind people that we have to get to a spirit of place a place of truth,
Yeah.
self-awareness, understanding
Yeah.
what you're really doing, because most people don't know, you
Well,
know.
I think I think we cheat ourselves. Let me jump in here because we call ourselves going to worship, but is it possible to worship if you mad at the lady 2 rows over? Like, can you really? I mean, can you really focus and can you really worship? And Jesus says, look, if you come to worship and your brother has aught against you, if there's some drama going on, I need you to leave your offering, go handle that, go have the conversation, make peace, and then come back to worship. Why is it that we overlook that?
I think many people overlook it because it's hard. You know, that's a hard thing for some people. And we haven't really gotten to the place where we understand what true surrender means. True surrender means letting go of the safety buddies that you've used for so many years that have literally felt like the only means of allowing you to function well.
Yeah,
And so, you know, forgiving the person, 3 rows down from you who may have done something to hurt you means that, I am, some form of my identity is being challenged. Some form of who I am is being looked at as not right or not, good enough or not um worthy to be loved. People have all these stories going on in their head
yeah,
about what's happening in their relationships with one another. I taught a short talk not too long ago from the rich young ruler
mm,
passage in Matthew,
yeah,
where Jesus, one of the when he started laying out some of these things that we should be doing as believers, if you realize all of those commandments dealt with our relationships with people,
yeah,
you know, and which tells us that God does have a concern for how we interact with one another and how we treat one another and how we process life with one another, because we are hurt in relationships, but we're also very healed in relationships. But people have to get to a place of safety. They have to be educated that this is the right place to be. That in order to be able to live a life that is presentable to God, you have to come. You have to get to a place where forgiveness is okay, and forgiveness does not mean that what the person did wasn't right. It just
yeah,
means you're willing to let go of what story is replaying in your mind about you, her, him, and the world around you.
yeah.
But people have found their identity in their story that
Mhm.
prevents them from being able to find a new identity in Christ, new identity in forgiveness, a new identity in true surrender to God.
That's where I was going to go but right before you said that, because it seems like what we have is people are like we talk about the former self, that old man, where we're identifying with our sin, and literally our sin becomes who we are, even as that new creation. And it seems like that's what's happening a lot with trauma, is that people are identifying that traumatic moment with themselves and not allowing themselves to move on from it and experience that true healing. So, what I want to ask you is, of course, counseling is excellent, but there are still some that may not go to counseling. But the church is also here as well. What can we do as churches to foster an environment where these difficult conversations can take place, uh, be it at the church, or prepare people to go to their home and sit around the table and to have these deep conversations?
Yes, you know what? I'm glad you said that. And I have the opportunity of sitting underneath some amazing leadership. And um, one thing that I have realized is that, as Christians, we put so much pressure
Yeah,
on the church to solve the problems of humanity
yeah,
when the church was not necessarily the place to do that. God, the relation building that relationship with Jesus was, you
yeah,
know. And so one thing that the church can do more of, one, is acknowledge that we're all imperfect. We all are still working towards perfection. But
yeah,
then two, be broken in prayer, truly become a house of prayer. Because I honestly believe that through prayer and brokenness, God will really show you your heart.
Yeah.
You know, because our focus would no longer be on man, but our focus will be on God. You know, our focus will be on what our relationship, our true relationship with God is and what that looks like. And so when we talk about how can the church improve on dealing with these the mental health behind closed doors, is getting back
Oh,
to
he'll be back.
of what the church was made to do.
Yeah.
Teach people that Jesus saves. Teach people that the good news doesn't come from me as a man or a woman, but it comes from God. I'm just a messenger of God's word. Teaching people how to pray. Teaching people how to have brokenness in
Yeah.
worship. Teaching people what love looks like. You know, most people don't know what love truly looks like,
Yeah.
and the church has to be the place where love is shown in a way in which people can heal through that and say, "Oh my God, like I've never felt this
Yeah.
type of freedom in expressing what's really going on." The other thing the church can do is we can. I love the colloquialisms that we have, where it's like, "How you doing, blessed, and highly favored?" All those things is great, but also allowing for there to be spaces where we truly talk about how the gospel truly heals. Which I forgot to say, I have a book on Amazon called The Gospel That Heals.
What?
Yes, so I want people to go get that too.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
but the church has to be the place to where we teach people about the gospel of Jesus, that it show them through the life of scriptures how their lives can be mended and healed, and then encourage them to truly be discipled, you know, to truly be counseled, to truly um, um, experience what it means to live a life of freedom. You know, because if we truly believe that Jesus can set the captives free and and heal and free and deliver people, then we need to get back to the disciplines of the Bible, the disciplines that Jesus showed us, versus just having an experience to where it causes us to avoid the pressures of life. Because church can easily become another safety buddy that enables us to continue to avoid the necessary healing that we all need.
Wow. And you know what? That gives a whole new meaning to the church being one that equips the saints, as opposed to being the one that solves the problems of the saints. Jesus, of course, is the answer, but we have to foster an environment through maybe some training and to making sure that people have the proper tools to do that. And one of the tools that most people lack, especially these days, is the tool of communication. One of the challenges that we face dealing, particularly with the younger generation, more so than the older generation, is because we become so tech savvy, texting and communicating through different mediums, that some of that face to face communication has been lost and has made it difficult to have those conversations. Are there some tips or some things that you do to help people learn how to communicate their feelings and how to articulate what they're actually going through?
Yes, well, the first one is being an example. You know, I think for the most part,
Oh Lord, help us.
in order for the body to take off their mask, those in leadership must take off their mask.
Now
You know,
Moses wore a veil, so don't you judge me for my veil.
hey, I love a good veil, but at the same, people
Take it
need to see.
off.
Yes, people need
Yeah.
to see it. One, and then they need to hear it. You know, we overcome by the power of our testimonies. If you're never given testimonies, you're never going to be able to know that, oh, someone else has overcome my issue. The other thing with communication is it's allowing people the opportunity to express what they're really feeling without judgment and biasness.
Mm.
You know, one of the things that I've seen, especially in the minority community within the church, And not, you know what, I take that back. I don't think that's truth. I don't think that's truth. But one thing that I have seen within the body of Christ is that when people come to expose their sin,
Yeah.
to share their hidden burdens,
Yeah.
we have others that come and say, no, 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 don't say that in church. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't, wait, you don't,
Yeah. We
hold
put
back.
shame on them. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And shame never frees anyone. Shame tells me that I'm not worthy of being free.
Yeah.
Shame tells me that that I'm going to be this way forever, and
Yeah.
that nobody, including Jesus, can set me free. Shame keeps us in bondage. It doesn't allow us freedom. But true vulnerability, being vulnerable, leaning into your emotions, and allowing other people that come to you to lean into their emotions, allows them to be able to express what they're really feeling in that moment. And the
Yeah.
second thing is understanding that feelings are not fact. People get
Yeah.
upset with that phrase sometimes. They're like, no, I truly feel this way. It's a fact. I'm like, no, it's fluid. It cannot
Yeah.
be that. But what it is what I do is validate you.
Yeah.
Validate that right now you're feeling exposed, that right now you're feeling taken advantage of, that right now you're feeling hurt, you're feeling shame, you're feeling attacked. I have to acknowledge that. And then after someone acknowledges that, the third thing that needs to be done is that we need to express the truth.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is in a story.
Yeah.
Everyone has an inner dialogue going on in their mind that's telling them something that isn't truth.
Yeah.
And being able to share that your feelings are valid, but let me speak the truth into your situation so that you can challenge those limiting beliefs, so that you can challenge those beliefs that are causing you to pull back when the Spirit, Holy Spirit, and the body of Christ around you is trying to draw you near.
Yeah.
It's that inner voice that's speaking to you, the lies that's causing you to feel like I can't, expose this. I'll never be healed from this. I'll never be set free. They'll never understand. Everybody's against me. All those things. It's that inner voice that's speaking that. And so it has to be someone around you to speak truth to your situation. And then lastly, once somebody, tells their story, truth is revealed. They're not shamed, but they're allowed a place of vulnerability to share. Then we need to cover them in prayer, not gossip.
Yes.
You know,
Go ahead
it,
and stay there. Preach.
one of the reasons why we have unhealthy communication is because
Yeah.
people are fearful of words.
Yeah.
you know and so we need to begin to teach people the power of their words.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about there's life and death in your tongue. Your words have the power to heal and kill.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that as someone is exposing and expressing their inward hurts, that you are covering it in prayer, that you're
Yeah.
taking it to higher leadership to be able to not share with the complete body, but to begin to work with that person and get them connected to other individuals who can help them. So you can have someone constantly speaking truth to the lies that the agenda of the enemy in their inner mind. Because there is a battlefield, and the battlefield is always up here, which stops us from being able to communicate what's really going on in here in the heart.
Wow. I was upset when you were talking because my wife actually last year, uh, we would have some tension in our family. And my wife said, let's take the whole crew. So all seven of us, my wife and myself and my five daughters, we all went to counseling. And you ain't gonna believe this because for a fact because you my friend, so I'm almost perfect. I'm like a smidge off. If it was a little bit of salt and pepper, boom, boy, that boy be on the money. How we get in this counseling session? And these jokers spend 30 minutes on your boy. 30 minutes on your boy. I was like, how y'all got all this stuff to talk about me for? But one of the things that you talked about, what was challenging was understanding that everyone is experiencing everything differently and everyone has a perspective. And it is challenging hearing people's perspectives and pain without becoming defensive, because in their heart, they believe that what they're sharing is the gospel truth. How do we hear our brothers in love and have enough compassion to resist putting up those dukes and fighting and fighting them to the death, and in the process, not even clearly hearing the pain that they're articulating?
Yes, the Bible talks about being slow to speak and quick to listen.
Yeah.
There is always something unsaid. There's always something underneath what is said.
Yeah.
But you have to be quick to listen. You know, the reason why we can't see our own doo-doo
Yeah.
because we're waiting to respond and not listen, not hear. And pride keeps us, including me, because sometimes my therapist call me out on my stuff, and I be like, "No, not right."
Right now.
We'll let it slide because I think you had a momentary lapse of judgment. I'm waiting for you to tell me that I'm right.
Yeah.
But you know, we have to deal with that inward pride.
Yeah.
You know, pride tells us that we know more than God. You know, pride tells us that we know more than those who are experienced to help, to expose to men.
Yeah.
Pride keeps us in our story, you know, and like I was saying earlier, we are such clever individuals. We were crafted in such greatness that whatever we allow ourselves to believe in our minds, we will come up with with confirming evidence that we are right. And so we have got to deal with the pride that is within us. You know, in psychology, we call it confirmation bias. In the Bible, when you look through scriptures, it's revealed as pride. You know, and when we look at the fruit of pride, pride kicked Satan out of heaven.
Yeah.
Pride kept Moses from being compassionate to the people and striking a rock and not being able to cross over. You know, pride keeps us from our promised land. Pride keeps us from our freedom. Pride keeps us from being able to experience peace.
Yeah.
And so we have to allow ourselves to be slow to speak and quick to listen.
One of the things that helped us out when we were in therapy, and we're still doing it, by the way, and it's been a beautiful thing, is the understanding that one of the things I was looking at it with in your bio was this study of forensic juvenile cases. And when I thought about forensics, you know, you always think about CSI and literally putting together all of the different clues. And I thought about what it's like for a therapist or a pastor that is counseling, because a lot of what you're doing is you're listening to the story and you are able to hear specific clues in what's communicated. And you can do either one of two things, and that's guide someone to these clues or point them directly out. And so in general, how do you handle the forensic evidence that is presented in those? Because I love the fact, and I was shamed in the sense that part of what the church has not done is provide that safe environment for people to share without judgment. And it is honestly shameful, even though I love the profession, it's actually shameful that we would have to even admit that people would have to go outside of this place of healing to find a safe place to actually heal. And that's a challenging thing for us to, but can you actually talk about that, these clues and how you provide that environment?
Yes. So, you know, in forensics, what we're doing is always creating a profile. There's a profile to a certain person. A person that has been traumatized has a certain profile. They have a certain identity. A person that's a criminal or a mass shooter, they have a profile. When I uh, say, think about one of the greatest psychopaths in history, a killer. You can immediately picture what that person will look like,
Yeah.
what that person's personality would be like, what that person's behaviors would look like. If I said, "Oh, well, what makes up a pedophile?" You immediately have a picture
Yeah.
of what you feel this person would look like. And so, you know um when we talk about forensics, when we talk about looking, at the complete picture, like there's evidence to support that this person would most likely be like this, or this person will most likely generate these type of behaviors. We all have it. It's not difficult. And
Yeah.
so what we're doing is just reveal it.
Yeah.
you know but the thing is, we don't reveal it to the outsiders. We reveal
Yeah.
it to the person for change. And what I've seen, and at times, and even God had to check me, is
Yeah.
that what is the purpose of the revealing?
Yeah.
The revealing is not to shame someone, to put someone in their place, or to keep them beneath you, but the revealing is so that they can be healed, that they
Yeah.
can be exposed to truth. And so, as a church, one of the things that we have to do is begin to heal with compassion.
Yeah.
Heal, understand that a person who acts out and cusses folks out, yeah, that behavior could be difficult to deal with. However, that behavior tells us that there's something broken underneath that we have to speak to.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at the heart of the person, and have to look at the person through the loving eyes of Christ, in order to bring revelation to them. If you wanted to witness to a homeless person, you don't first go up to them and talk about the gospel that heals. You know,
Yeah.
you give them a plate of food. You show them, you treat them with humanity. You begin to befriend them. You begin to show them compassion and love,
Yeah.
and then you heal. It's through relationship that we heal. It's through relationship that we're able to reveal truth. But we do, even though forensics is an important part of the work that we do in criminal justice, sometimes it can be difficult to utilize that in church.
Yeah.
Because when we create profiles in church, we judge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's what do you do with the judgments
Yeah.
that you have with people?
I think the important thing about this forensic piece is not, creating profiles, but understanding that we are the sum part of our experiences.
Mhm.
And when you're looking at someone that is involved in sin, uh, we're looking directly at who they are and not considering the factors that contributed to them getting there.
Correct.
And when I was working at the group home in Richmond, Virginia, I worked at two different group homes. And one of the things, before the kid would arrive, they would give us a manila folder. It was a case file. And we had to read through this child's history and their experiences, so that when they came in, we had so much compassion and so much patience, and what we would say long suffering, because we understood that there was a lot of things that brought them to this moment. But in church, we don't do that. When people come in, we identify them or judge them by the sin, as opposed to understanding that they are more than just this moment, and that there are many factors that need to be addressed in one's life to actually help them to be delivered from the situation that they're facing. And so that's why I was loving the forensic piece of it, because
Oh, yeah.
there are lots of different clues and points that intersect that actually bring us to this moment. Now we got 10 minutes, so I want you to, if you will, tell us about the Successful Healing Center. Holla at your boy. Give me the lowdown.
Yes. So the Successful Healing Center is my private practice. I am 100% virtual, which I love and my clients love as well. What we do, I mainly specialize is helping you to be able to um, be exposed to getting in touch with your emotions so that you can heal, so that you can become successful in life. A lot of times we put the cart before the horse, and we say, go out there and get success, and then you use that success to come back and heal. But what happens is most people don't find that time to actually come back and heal. So you want to heal first so that when you're placed in position of success, you're able to enjoy it, you're able to experience it with freedom, you're able to be in a place of peace, and you won't experience a lot of the trials and tribulations that come along with having to wear a mask in public and then go home and deal with the dark places of your life.
Yeah.
Successful Healing Center is a virtual safe space for my target population that I mainly work with is women entrepreneurs. I do have clients who are not women entrepreneurs, but mostly women entrepreneurs or women in leadership who need a safe space to begin to heal, to begin to do the work that they so desperately need in order to find this place of peace to match their success.
Yeah. With the last couple of minutes we have, one of the things you talked about, and we talked about this earlier, is ministering to this professional woman of all colors, uh, but particularly our sisters and women, let's just say in general, have had to be superwoman for so long. Uh, how do we help our ladies understand uh, that apart from those two identities, the Clark Kent or I forget what's the Supergirl's real name. Uh, I was watching the show last year. Good lord! But anyways, whatever her real name is in her superhero, that our mothers and our wives and our women are facing the same thing, trying to be the strongest in their fields, and then the strongest at home, and how sometimes that causes some breaking. And so, can you talk a little bit about the self care and the awareness that our women need to have to protect themselves and, in doing that, protect their families?
Yes. There's this, when we talk about trauma, um, we can see through statistics how traumatized the African American community is, as well as how African American women have been traumatized.
Yeah.
And through that, one of the ways, that we've learned to cope with the trauma, not heal, but cope with
Cope
the
with it.
trauma,
Mm,
is to see ourselves as superhuman, you
yeah.
know? And so we put this cape on and we have this toxic celebration of womanhood through being strong. And I say it's toxic because we're human. There are moments where we break down. There's moments where we need to cry. There's moments where we need to feel what we're really experiencing. And so I want to encourage every woman to understand that if Jesus had to take off his
Mm,
divinity in
mm,
order to bring about change in humanity, we have to take off our perceived divinity. I'm not going to say perceived, our divinity,
yes.
order to heal, in order to change the our families, in order to break generational curses, in order to truly live in peace and harmonious lives and be joyful, you know. And so we have to take off the capes. And so some self-care practices that I definitely recommend is one, authentic sharing with
Mm.
with safe people, you know,
Emphasis on safe.
emphasis on safe,
Yes.
authentic sharing with safe people. The second thing I wanted to share is radical acceptance. Radically accept your life as it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because refusing to accept life for how it really is will definitely cause you to forfeit your peace. It will cause you to forfeit the blessings that we are given by God. And so when you radically accept that you have been through certain situations that are damaging in nature, it helps you to be able to be healed from that pain. When you radically accept that there's just some people around you who may or may not change, it allows you to free yourself from being able to manipulate and throw so much of your identity into the lives of other people and
Yeah.
forfeit your own. So I say authentically share with safe people, radically accept your life as it is, what has happened and what will be. And then lastly, surrender to Christ.
Yeah.
You know, not a worldly system that tells you that trauma and pain is your identity and source of strength. No, I release that.
Yeah.
Release yourself from that burden of feeling like you have to be traumatized in order to be strong. That's toxic. That's not healthy. And so I would encourage every African American woman yet to know, yes, you are magic. However, you are human, and you are
Yes.
still in need of a savior. And you, if Jesus took off his divinity in order to bring about change in humanity, so do you as well.
Yeah. And there's something valuable about companionship that has been somewhat
Oh
overrated,
yeah.
or underrated rather, where people have downplayed uh, needing other people and have settled for this. I can be by myself. I can exist by myself. And one of my favorite shows is Naked and Afraid. And what's crazy is you see these people, they're on the show, and it's two of them, and they just strong. They got it. And then 24 hours after the person leaves, you see a difference in their entire countenance. Now all of a sudden, I'm alone. I don't have anybody to talk to. It's like, yeah, but you're a master woodsman. You're a master hunter. Why are you concerned about this person not being there? And that's because we need fellowship. There's a reason the Bible says, don't deny yourself the fellowship of the saints.
Yes.
You need other people. And for the record, we also need counsel. We need people that we can talk to, that can help us process, that can help us to see the clues that lead towards healing, that can help us face our reality, and that can help us erase these foolish, cartoonish images that we created through our Facebook profiles, our Twitter profiles, our LinkedIn profile. And it's like, you are not the sum of your profile. It's just a profile. Uh, and if we can do that and find a way to deal with self, I think some great things are in store for us. We got one more minute. Can you give us that book again?
Yes. So my book that is published is on Amazon. It's called The Gospel That Heals: Strategies to Heal After Hurt. I talk about my own journey through healing. And I, take biblical characters in the Bible, and I show how they also had to go through a phase of healing, a phase of being restored through the gospel. Because the gospel is truly what heals. Yes, I definitely believe in seeking wise counsel. I will
Amen.
never, ever, ever say a therapist, a licensed therapist is not needed. I will never, ever, ever say that.
No.
But what I will say is that in order for a person to experience true freedom and true peace in life, they definitely have to have the gospel that heals as a source of a source of strength, a source of healing, a tool in their journey. Um, and so yeah, so that, and then if you go on my website, the Successful Healing Center, you also see an ebook, 14-day devotional to help you through getting through some of those emotional, distressful times. But then also, if you want to book either coaching or therapy, you can go to thekimberlywillis.com, and find out more information and links in order to how to work with me.
Awesome. Look, I thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and say Dr. Willis, because I'm gonna speak that thing into existence.
We'll pray about it.
Yeah, Lord. You have all that it takes and have been a blessing to so many people, definitely myself. And so I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on Pastor JD03, the podcast. We have some interesting discussions. I am blessed. I say it all the time. I am blessed to know some amazing people, and those amazing people have given me some amazing conversations. And from that, I've been able to extract some wisdom for my life. And I'm hoping that you will also be able to extract some wisdom from your life through these dialogues as well. Hey, I love you. And thank you for hanging out with us on Pastor JD03, the podcast. We'll see you next time.